All right, Miranda, thanks a lot. Joining us now is White House correspondent for Newsmax, John Gizzi, to look at his new column about maybe the birth of the Tea Party and the life and death of Congressman Bruce Alger. Good to have you with us, John.
Good to be here, as always, and it's a beautiful day in the nation's capital.
Well, those are few and far between, at least not necessarily talking about the weather, but interesting column about the birth of the Tea Party. Now, why do you view him, and why do folks view Bruce Alger as the kind of first Tea Party ever? Is that because he called LBJ a sellout?
No, there's a lot more to it than that, and a lot more to the late Texas Congressman Bruce Alger. He was someone who came from the private sector, had never held or run for office when he was elected to Congress from Dallas, Texas, the only Republican from the Lone Star State, way back in 1954. He was opposed to the school lunch program, a position he took when I interviewed him years later at the age of 91. He criticized public education, aid to public education, all kinds of federal programs that were opposed today by the Tea Party, or at least criticized, he was fighting against in the 1950s. He wanted the U.S. out of the United Nations, way before Ron Paul and his son Rand started criticizing U.S. involvement in international organizations. Now, he voted no more often than he voted yes. The joke was Congressman Alger voted no on everything, including adjournment. Was a major target of Democrats and only voted with the Republican Eisenhower administration 9% of the time. In many ways, you can see the outspokenness and the willingness to take heat for it that we see, say, in Senator Ted Cruz.
Right,
today,
and you talked about Rand Paul and Ron Paul as well, and Ted Cruz. You say Alger's legacy still lives on in these types of guys. What about the Tea Party's legacy? A lot of folks have talked about the demise of the Tea Party. Is that true, or do you see them coming back?
I don't see them as in a period of demise, like a lot of outsider movements in history. Many of those who became involved in politics for the first time through the Tea Party are now getting integrated within the political system and local political parties. Very much the way organized labor got into the Democratic Party, the Tea Party is becoming part of the Republican Party structure. And as a result, they're a little quieter. Sometimes they take diverse roles in Republican primaries, which was not the case in 2010, when it was often my way or the highway with certain nominations for office. So I just see them quieter and, quite frankly, smarter.
Okay, so smarter. Since they're quieter, how do you see them reemerging? Is it going to be over a long period of time? We just got a little bit of left time to go, John, but I want to get your take, because will they be a dominant force in the next election cycle, or do we have to wait an election cycle or two before we start really seeing more of that influence?
Well, since you mentioned Bruce Alger, remember something. He was the only game in town for Republicans in Texas in the 50s. But gradually, people like the late Senator John Tower, George H.W. Bush, came after him quite rapidly because conservatism was becoming cool. So it is again in the presidential election and certainly in the Republican nomination process. My prediction is you'll be able to smell a brew of tea in the primaries and caucuses for president. It may not just be as pungent as in some of the primaries for other offices in the past.
All right.
It'll be fun to cover for this reporter.
We're looking forward to it, John. We're looking forward to more of your columns. You can catch them on Newsmax.com. What was old is new again in Washington. John Gizzi, thanks so much for being with us.